everybody to the River Edge Library's Zoom meeting. We have with us Nancy Lebov. She is the CEO and founder of Alumni Recovery, and we partner together to bring together wonderful community groups today to talk to us about their organization. Just to introduce Nancy, Alumni Recovery is a nonprofit organization with the mission to provide a safe and reliable program to heighten awareness, hope, and resources for our local community. Thanks so much for being with us, Nancy. I'm going to let you take it away.
Hey, hi everybody. It's Nancy Lebov, and I am in Utah, and there's dogs barking in the background, so sorry about that. I really want to thank Julia Lee from the River Edge Library for putting this together, and we have also worked very closely with River Edge for quite some time. I want to thank very much Stacy Stein. She has done a tremendous job with helping as a community liaison for Alumni in Recovery in creating community-based events and helping us with our events like our walks. And anyways, River Edge has an awesome community. Their school community, I think, is one of the finest, and they do show up. And showing up is extremely important in recovery. Recovering in any which way, shape, or form is there's a degree of service that takes place. The disease of addiction, substance use disorder, is one that is mental, physical, and spiritual. Make no mistake, we have to address it on all three levels. And the thing is that right now we are at a time, especially coming out of COVID, we got the new number in, and it's 93,331 people have died of an overdose in our nation in 2020. And that was up 30% from the year before. So I realized our resources were like, unavailable during COVID for especially the first few months. And, people, had a lot of different mental health issues going on and substance abuse and mental health go hand in hand, as our speakers will touch on. It is a co-occurring disorder, and it doesn't always happen that way, but we must address both. We really do. And it's time for us to all come together and all of our resources to be able to connect our community. And that's the spiritual piece. And if nothing else, we don't necessarily, as a society, like to talk about the spiritual piece. But the spiritual piece has to do with connecting and creating wholeness. And that's the truth. So that is what's important. And that's what we do through these virtual events. So all of our guests tonight, starting with Morgan Kennedy, who is our Alumni in Recovery member and a townie from River Edge. And that is why we call it Alumni in Recovery. Because if you can get a message from somebody that's actually from your own community, that is powerful. Secondly, we have Trish Casey, who is a bereaved parent of our organization, because we're made up of recovery community and grieving community. We have Nikki Chiarello. She is from Comprehensive Behavioral Health, as well as the Oradell Stigma-Free, or I think the Alliance, I'm not sure, she'll tell you later. We also have Andrea Ouida, I hope I said that right, from River Edge Stigma-Free, Claudia O'Neill from River Edge Municipal Alliance Against Substance Abuse, and very pleased to say that Chief Michael Walker and Sergeant Marc Abate from the River Edge Police Department. And if we have any time for questions after, we will certainly welcome them. And everybody will speak for approximately 10 minutes or less, just to hopefully get everybody in. So I want to thank you very much, and I'm going to turn it over to Morgan. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Julia. I was saying before that it's just like so weird in the best way to be talking like at a River Edge event. It's just like bizarre to me. I have like notes here, so if you see me looking down, I just want to make sure I stay on track. So my name is Morgan Kennedy. I'm 24 years old. I have lived in River Edge all my life. Tried to escape Hackensack, but I actually moved home during quarantine. So I'm back in River Edge, couldn't stay away. And, I was always good in school growing up. It was never like my insecurities and stuff never really held me back with school, but I did have a lot of insecurities growing up. I remember in 5th grade thinking that I was fat, maybe even before that. Like that body image issue started off really young. Middle school is arguably really hard for everyone, but it was same thing for me. I didn't have many friends. I wasn't part of the popular crew. And then in high school, that kind of just escalated. The older I got, the more I got involved in things that weren't good for me. When I got into high school, that's when I started drinking. And I recognized from the beginning that I always wanted to drink more than everyone else. Everyone else was maybe drinking to just drink, or just like, I don't know, just drink to be like cool or whatever. But I like wanted to get drunk. I wanted to get like blackout drunk, not remember anything, and mask up these feelings because it gave me confidence, or it made me think I had confidence. But I'm telling you right now, the person I was when I was drunk was not like, I don't strive to be anything like that now. I was always trying to fit in. I was always trying to like stay up with like the popular crew. You know, if I wasn't at a party, I'd feel like a loser. Like, I don't know. I was very like aware of the high school experience, and like upset if I wasn't doing it how I thought it was supposed to be. It was always like wanting to be perfect. So fast forward, my drinking didn't really improve throughout high school. Actually, my graduation, so I graduated in 2015. My drinking that year was not a drink at the school at the event. And long story short, I didn't get out of that one. I ended up being handcuffed and arrested in front of my whole grade. And in River Edge, like Riverdale, that's not something that like happens all the time. So like I was humiliated. Like I was absolutely humiliated, because it's not like I couldn't have predicted that going into the night. So I couldn't walk at my graduation the next day. I went to my graduation. They skipped over my name. That hurt. Like that just, I'm not like that really, really, really just wasn't like a good ending to high school. It wasn't a good start to my said college life that ended up only lasting 2 weeks, maybe less than that. I'm not even sure. But I missed that get your money back thing by like 2 days. So I dragged it out just long enough. I was just going to make everyone happy. But once I was there was a public speaking class, which like in hindsight, me talking right now is just really funny. This public speaking class, I was so like, my anxiety was so bad at that point. I'm sure what happened at graduation did not help with my confidence. I did not want to stand in front of a room. I did not want the attention on me. Like I had that, I was good. And like Montclair was insisting I take this public speaking class. And I was like, screw you, Montclair. But I mean, ultimately there's a reason for that public speaking class. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason for these things. So me talking like now is just like, it's just funny, you know, full circle moment. So after high school, after that Montclair, like, I don't even know if we should count it as a college experience. I got into an unhealthy relationship. I was working all the time. I was working at a daycare at the time. I had started working there in high school. I was very responsible when it came to my job. But the second that I was off the job and it was the weekend, like I needed to drink. I needed to go out. I needed to have a life, because I was working all week and I deserved it and what have you. But I wasn't eating a lot. I was working so much that I wasn't eating a lot. I was purposely not eating a lot. I had a lot of body image issues, and I forgot to mention in high school I was mood-at. I was called Cow, and that kind of followed me a little bit, because the person that I ended up in a relationship with was from my high school, and that relationship was a disaster. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it became physically abusive, mentally, emotionally abusive. He was more into pills, and my drug of choice has always been alcohol. And up until that point, it was alcohol, and I hadn't really like played around with pills. That scared me. I didn't want to do that. And I started doing pills because he was hitting me, and I didn't want to remember it. He was very into benzodiazepines, and that with alcohol is a very deadly mixture. But I played with that every weekend because I just didn't want to remember anything. But then it got to a point where I'd be waking up with bruises on my face. I couldn't really like back myself up like, oh, you hit me, that's what happened, because he would just say, how do you know that's what happened? We both don't remember it. So it just got into this really bad cycle. So my alcoholic brain was like, it's fine, I'll just go back to drinking and no pills, and that's going to work. So I was putting myself all high and mighty over him. I'm not defending him in any way, but I didn't deserve to be putting myself that high and mighty, because honestly, my drinking was just as bad and he was an addict struggling just like I was. There was obviously extra layers to the situation, but I got him into rehab. I just doing a time check. I got him into rehab. I went downhill as soon as he went into rehab. I started living 2 lives of him calling me because I kind of manipulated him to get there. Like I brought him there while he was on drugs. Like it was just a very rough start, and I cared a lot about him. I wanted him to get sober. So I was supporting him as a friend. And I was living a double life. I was saying I wasn't going out, but I was going out. I was going out all the time. At this point, I didn't have a job because I had shown up with a black eye once. I was a nanny, and they didn't feel safe with me home, and I don't blame them. But that job was like keeping me together. So once he's in rehab, I was trying to find a job and I couldn't. Like I just couldn't. And I don't think that it's necessarily that the jobs didn't want me, but I wasn't like ready for anything. I was falling apart at the seams. Anything that happened would just trigger that PTSD that I got from that physical abuse. And the symptoms of PTSD appear as drinking too much, trying to find like what you were looking for in different ways. And I was definitely experiencing PTSD with nightmares and all that fun stuff. So I basically just had to keep going down until I hit rock bottom. And a quote I like is, rock bottom became the solid foundation on which to build my life. I started trying to get sober, and that's when I realized that I couldn't, because I had this app that I would like track it, and I'd be like restart like every weekend. And so I was like, okay, there's a problem. And then basically he got home from rehab and he was sober. He was on the other side of things. I was the one who was like a disaster. And that was really hard for me because the entire time I had known him, all throughout Riverdale High School, all of this time, he had been the mess. And now he got me to that point. He had said some things on a phone call one day, and it put me in a place. It put me in a place that I never want to go back to. And I took a bottle of sleeping pills that night, in combination with whatever I had taken the weekend before, which like I had gone out with a bang. I ended up in the hospital. I was okay. They didn't have to pump my stomach since I was still awake. I was drinking charcoal, which is not a pleasant experience. And I saw my mom's face to the right of the room, and I like nodding out every 2 seconds, seeing her face. Like that is ingrained in my soul. Like I will never unsee that face, and I never wanted to see it again. And so I ended up at Ramapo Ridge. It's a mental hospital. And I was always downplaying my addiction. So I was downplaying it there. So I really just kept to myself when I was there. But I had a moment where I was like, I need to do a check because like this isn't right. And long story short, I kept with that. I kept that promise to myself coming home. I cut out who I had to cut out. And it's not easy to cut out your friends when you get sober. It's really not easy because you feel for them. You feel so like heartbroken that they can't see the other side. I got my life together. I was at Bergen Regional. What am I saying? Bergen Newbridge Medical Center. It's like in my head because I do yoga there. But I went to Bergen Community College, And I was getting all my prerequisites. I had started when I was still using, when I was trying to initially get sober. And I got my prerequisites. I took the nursing exam. I kicked my butt for that. I scored in the 92nd percentile, and I was like on cloud 9. Like, I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I am the poster child. My parents are proud of me. Like, yes, I'm gonna be a nurse. This is great. And the universe didn't want that. They just, the universe want, like, I have another purpose. And so December 21st, 2018, plot twist, I found out I had thyroid cancer. Now, had I not gotten my life together prior to that, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, who knows how that would have looked? I was 4 months sober at that point. I was really just trying not to feel anything for a while. I got told I couldn't go to the nursing program anymore, which was like big punch to like my confidence that I had going for me. But I got through 2 surgeries within 4 months. I got through using pain medicine when I really felt guilty. I felt really, really guilty. I couldn't eat that much, so I wouldn't feel high, but I would feel the pill. And that gave me like this sick feeling in my stomach. Like, I'm cheating the system. Like, what is happening? Why am I enjoying this? Why do I want more? Bringing back, like, you know, bad memories. But what kept me together during this time is that someone had introduced me to yoga. And for those of you who don't know, like, yoga goes way beyond the physical postures of it. And so this also helped me explore meditation because I couldn't physically move. And I had to rebuild this relationship with my body. And so I really, really kept with that. And I kept with that mindset. And I'm still here, 3 years sober on August 12th. And I make it, it's black and white. Like, I make it work, but it's like still so black and white. If I had, like, I don't know if any of the River Edge police officers remember me, but I was not anything even remotely like who I am now. It's very black and white. And honestly, if I told my 15-year-old self I would be talking right now at a River Edge event, I probably honestly would have laughed in my face. But that being said, I am so thankful and grateful to be from such a town that cares. And has welcomed me back with open arms. I teach yoga for the town. It's like bizarre to me still. It's like, I don't even have words for it, but I just wanted to say, like, thank you to, like, the town of River Edge. Thank you to everyone who has stuck by me, because I see my mom sent a few people the information. And it's possible. Like, I could have very easily ended up somewhere else or not alive, but you know, the universe works in very funny ways. And I took the time to take like personal inventory and get on the right track. Last thing, Nancy wanted me to mention this. So a lot of people ask how it's like being sober at 24. How do you get through? Are you going to drink at your wedding? That's something that everyone loves to ask. My sister is getting married in October, and I have her bachelorette party this weekend. And part of it is going to a vineyard. Now, wine was my drink of choice, and I have never been to a vineyard. So I'm like I was freaking out about it for a while. But me and my best friend, who's from River Edge, I've known her since kindergarten, we were just like playing around one day, and I found this shirt that I'm going to wear to the vineyard. I have it right here, just to put light on it. Rolling sober. So no one can ask me every 2 seconds, do you want a sip of wine? Because I'm going to have to tell them, if you give me a sip of wine, you have a problem. Read the shirt, because I don't want to have to answer to people. And I think that that's just a good representation on how I feel towards recovery and towards like the world today. I was looking for everyone's approval my whole life, and now I don't care if someone's like, oh, that girl's shirt. Like, I think that shirt is awesome. And with that, I'm going to turn it on over to Trish. Thank you guys for having me. I'm sorry if I went over by a few minutes, but I want to make sure I mentioned that shirt.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trish Casey. I'm telling you the other side of Morgan's successes, unfortunately. My daughter Jacqueline passed away on March 21st in 2015. She was 26 years old. She was gorgeous, vibrant, strong-willed, at times aggravating, but she always left an impression. And always since the time she could walk. She captured anyone's heart with whom she encountered with a manipulative charm. She was overall a force to be reckoned with. She didn't die of what the norm seems to be when people think of when they hear drugs and overdose. She died of a combination of the drugs she took when she died, and her secondary cause of death was bipolar disease. The drugs in her system were not of any overdose level. Her mental illness and the medications that she took for it contributed to her death. Statistically, 80% of bipolar or mentally ill people become addicted to drugs. It is an unfortunate symptom of the disease. Jacqueline was stunningly talented. She was a dancer all throughout high school until she graduated. She sang and she performed in local theater groups. She had a true love for performing arts. Unfortunately, when young people like her die in the manner that she did, the focus is all about the stigma that we associate with drugs and mental illness. This is why I chose to tell her story. When I asked to speak about my experience and loss, I immediately said yes, because over the past 6 years, since she has passed, I no longer see that shock on people's faces when they hear of a young person who died of drugs. Our society has become used to this epidemic. As Nancy mentioned, 93,000 people died from September 2019 through 2020, and that's up 30% from the previous year. Statistics indicate that every day in the US, 2,500 youths take a prescription pain reliever intentionally to get high for the first time. 246 people in this country die of an overdose every day. It's like having 9/11 happen 30 times a year. My daughter Jacqueline became addicted to crack and heroin 5 months before she passed away. She did drink and smoke pot by the time she was 17, and that's when her dancing ended. She tried heroin a total of 3 times, and 2 of them were in the week she died. Because of her mental illness, she would go off her meds, one of the many horrible side effects of bipolar disease. From there, she would self-medicate. During these years, the healthcare system did not allow you to walk into a rehab when you were ready. You either had to be withdrawing or court-ordered or come from a place where you were suicidal. It's very difficult to find the right help, given you only have a small moment when that addict is ready and willing to accept treatment. So my overarching message today is to listen to your gut. Jacqueline suffered from addiction, and it started with drinking, smoking pot. She worked in a restaurant for years and became addicted to pills like Xanax. She had ADHD, and these drugs, she would say, calmed her mind. Her mental illness magnified her erratic states of behavior. So I'm here to tell you, if you are a parent, you are not alone. If one day you realize you don't know what's going on with your child, because I too had a crash course. Jacqueline's best friend called me one day, told me she had tried heroin. I knew there was something different about her drug use. I knew she was deeper into it, and it wasn't just drinking with blacking out, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Let's face it, how many of us know the signs of crack and or heroin? I quickly learned what busted crack pipes look like in my house. I became adept at identifying the odd smell in my kitchen from cooking baking soda. I realized that I was missing tablespoons and missing valuables. Prior to being addicted to crack, Jacqueline would never even take a dime off a table if it wasn't hers. That all changed in the blink of an eye. She lied constantly, and that wasn't her either. We used to joke about how brutally honest she was sometimes. When all of this was going on, I leaned on my family and friends for support. Many of them, out of pure love and worry, told me I should kick her out. That's what a lot of people do. She's an adult. She needs to learn. I need to stop enabling her. That's another thing a lot of people say, especially when you have mentally ill children or adults living in your house. Again, I know this was all said out of love and fear, but I refused to kick her out of the house. I just listened to my gut. It's not that I didn't confront her or argue with her. I never let up on her, and in a moment of weakness on her part, after a lot of arguing, I eventually got her into a rehab. Unfortunately, she stayed for 2 weeks and came home, and then I didn't see her for 7 days. She had a boyfriend that was a crack dealer and would sleep in his car or in a drug motel. I, on the other hand, never slept. I kept my keys under my pillow, mace in the nightstand, and all of the knives were hidden in the kitchen. I never knew if she would bring someone home that was dangerous, and I never knew from her bipolar, coupled with the drugs, what state of mind she would be in. I decided in order to save her, I would get an order of protection against her that allowed her to live in my house, but she had to be clean and find employment. If the order was violated, then she would have been arrested. I thought at the time at least jail wasn't the grave. We went to court 1 month before she died, but the groundwork had been laid because we were scheduled to go back to court on that Monday, March 23rd, and she had met none of the requirements set in place by the judge, and she was scheduled to be sent away to a long extended rehab. But God had a different plan. Friday, March 20th, she came home. She was messed up, but I knew she was going away on Monday, so I let her go to sleep. We spoke for a minute. She got some water. She went to bed. I checked on her 3 times throughout the night. Anyone listening to this who has gone through this or is going through this understands the constant check on their breathing. I left the house, checked on her 1 more time, and when I arrived home in the afternoon, I found her and she was gone. Kneeling over her bed as if she was praying. She had slept for 15 hours. She got up, she made a phone call that morning. She even changed, and then apparently she dropped. So did my daughter have addiction? Yes, but she also died of mental illness. But all anyone said when she died was an overdose. Tons of rumors swirled on Facebook community pages only hours after her death to begin a discussion surrounding the circumstances, including rumors. Please remember, this was right before the fentanyl epidemic rise. It was like right on the cusp of it. Ultimately, the stigma around addiction needs to change and mental illness. And this is why I tell her story, my story, our story. Over the past 6 years, I have seen how there were more resources, more awareness, and more help available to those suffering with addiction and mental illness. There needs to be more done. There should be classes as early as elementary school to explain this brain disease and how to identify and avoid and ask for help. Why not? We focus on things in our schools, such as gender neutrality, civil rights. Why not introduce these subjects? Our society is losing our children at staggering rates. Overdoses are the #1 cause of death in people under the age of 50. I'm not an expert, but I am a grieving mom who lost her only child to addiction coupled with mental illness. But these subjects need to be addressed and discussed when children are young. Churches should have more youth groups that focus on it. Resources for therapists, psychiatrists need to be available for family and their kids. If you are a parent or a loved one of an active addict, especially coupled with mental illness, I know how you feel. Powerless, afraid, angry, terrified. I've been there. I come back to what I said earlier, and I'm just here to tell you to listen to your gut. As hard as it is when your gut makes you want to throw up at the reality of what your child has become, an addict. I was very protective of Jacqueline's mental illness and her addiction. As parents, we want to protect them no matter what, and you must do what you feel is best for your child. Get them help, stick to your gut, reach out to family and friends, even when you don't want to hear that judgment. Be strong about it. Reach out to your church, get a therapist, reach out to the police, local support groups. This is a great thing that's going on here, but don't beat yourself up. This is a disease, and when they become addicted, they are physically addicted. Their minds will focus on feeding that addiction to make their bodies physically feel better. They shouldn't be judged, they should be helped. I say listen to your gut because I wake up every day having to suppress the feeling of sickness in my gut as I grieve the loss of my daughter. For me, the answer was not kicking around. Yelling and lecturing, overcompensating never worked. Look at the reaction to the COVID pandemic. Vaccines, treatments, government involvement. Why is it so hard for us to get the help for the mentally ill or the addicts or the addicts who are just struggling? How many more people have to die? If you are struggling over a family member with addiction combined with mental illness or not, please know it's okay to feel out of control, scared, alone, but those feelings should not overcome your feeling to get help for your child or family member in any way you can. Help is out there. It will be a relief for you to get the company of the other families that are struggling. They can identify with what you're going through and get you resources and strategies to cope with what's happening in your life. It's too late for my Jacqueline. I would take back all of it, all the feelings back to have her with me. And I have a very strong faith and I know she's safe, but there is no reason why in our society we can't find safety for our children who are suffering from this disease, to not only have them survive, but thrive again one day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trish. Our stories matter, and that is why we speak openly, and we need to listen to each other. And we will continue to speak openly and encourage so many people to get involved in this way. With this way, we can just come together so much better. It's time to listen to people from our resources, and Nikki Chiarello from Comprehensive Behavioral Health and Oradell Stigma-Free. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say, Trish, thank you for sharing your story. I am part of Oradell Stigma-Free. I work in the mental health field, but first and foremost, I am a mother. So thank you for sharing your story. And I think that all of us can feel what you're feeling. Morgan, I think you're a badass and good for you. And I think whatever it takes, you find your strength and you keep moving. I think that what everyone said before is really, really important. Before the pandemic, there were a lot of deaths. We talked about this, but there had seemed to be some kind of a plateau. And COVID has ruined all of that. And what we've seen, because people weren't able to get the health care that they needed, we've seen such a rise again. And let's be honest with all of ourselves and take a look around. We have all been affected by someone we cared about, someone we loved, whether it was a family member or a friend who has had an addiction problem. I think that we've done a really good job about getting it out there. I've had this conversation with Nancy before, that a couple of years ago, I think the first time that Alumni in Recovery came to Riverdale, and I brought my boys, and that I brought them hamming and hawing, kicking, and they didn't need to see this, and they didn't want to leave. And what happened was it sparked amazing conversation. And for me, someone who's in the field, that it gave me a way to talk to them on a different level. There is help out there. I think that what most of us have known who are here is the importance of mental health. And I think with COVID, the rest of the world now knows the importance of mental health. There are so many programs out there. As Nancy said before, a lot of times this is co-occurring, as Trish went through. And I think that sometimes in our county especially, there are so many resources that people don't know about. Reach out to a mental health agency. I am at Comprehensive Behavioral Health Care. We're located in Hackensack, but we have the Urgent Care Mental Health Center in Westwood. And so many people don't know about it. It's a crisis mental health care center, and it's 24/7. You have to call after hours, but someone will call you back. It's a walk-in center. It's kind of like a living room, and there's no hospital or people looking over your shoulder. It's meant to be comfortable and for people to walk in and not only find the resources that they need, but maybe the first connection. That is 18 and older. There are also things like intensive family services, because whether it's a mental illness or it's addiction or it's co-occurring, this is a family issue. It's not just about the one person. Yes, the focus is on the one person, but what about all of the people who love that person? So each county, ours happens to be through my agency, again, Comprehensive Behavioral Health Care. It's intensive family services. And what they provide is support groups, educational groups, but a lot of people don't know what's out there. Yes, there's outpatient, there are groups, there are addiction groups, but there's so much more out there to support the family. Because sometimes, and Trish, I really applaud you for reaching out to so many people, because sometimes I will admit that in my own family, there is addiction, and it took a long time for everyone to not whisper it, because that's what we do. So reach out and reach out to the many resources that are there. I am a resident of Oradell. I am a Riverdale alumni who graduated with Chief Walker, and I'm proud to still be a part of Riverdale and the Riverdale community. I think that we are on the pulse, but I also think there's a lot more work to be done. I am going to put my number in the chat. If anyone ever has any question and needs any help, even if it's not through my agency or in my realm, I can promise you that I will find whatever it is that you need and find the correct connection, because I am also a true believer that it does take a village. So whatever it is, do not hesitate. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for sharing your stories. And Nancy, thank you for always bringing this to all of us.
Thank you so much. It was great hearing from you, Nikki. I'm so glad you're on this event, and we'll just keep continuing to spread our word and messages during community-based events far and wide around the county. Next, we have Andrea Ouida from River Edge Stigma-Free. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for including me this evening. So my name is Andrea Ouida, and along, am I muted or you hear me? Okay. Along with Arlene Faustini, who is the River Edge public health nurse, we are the ambassadors for Stigma-Free in River Edge. Simply put, the Stigma-Free initiative aims to reduce the stigma associated with mental illness, because there is no health without mental health. And you will hear me say that again and again. And we want to create a culture where residents feel supported by their neighbors and feel encouraged to seek treatment. Fear of stigma is the primary reason that people do not seek help for mental illnesses. And help is available. And that's another thing I keep repeating to people. Now, I was going to talk a little bit about the pandemic, but Nikki did that. There are so many reasons that the pandemic has affected people's mental health, not only because they themselves might have been sick, they may have had family members sick, they may have lost family members, the pressure, financial pressures, children working from home, food insecurity, housing insecurity. There are so many reasons that the pandemic has really just put us on a path to mental health insanity in a way. I shouldn't use that word, but really it's just almost out of control. And we know that's going to last for a while. So anyway, what does the Stigma-Free initiative do? To begin with, we try to educate the community. We invite mental health professionals to speak at programs for the community. And some of our programs have focused on anxiety and depression, childhood anxiety, the autism spectrum, children going off to college, hoarding, vaping, supporting family caregivers, supporting the LGBTQ community, and of course more. We also have programs where the speakers are those who have dealt or are dealing with mental health issues. And I think it's wonderful that, that Morgan was able to be here and talk to us tonight. One of our most powerful programs was a panel of young adults. 4 young adults, 1 suffered from anxiety, 1 depression, 1 OCD, and 1 anorexia. And these young people were so honest about their challenges and so erudite in explaining what they went through that they really just blew us away. I do have notes because otherwise I forget everything I wanted to say. We've held book discussions and discussions around movies. And we do work very closely with Oradell, Stigma-Free, and a lot of our programs are held jointly. In Oradell, one of the Stigma-Free members was very distressed by the suicides of several middle-aged men. Middle-aged man himself, he found a leader and started a men's support group that is thriving and growing. And that's the kind of thing that we love to see come out of an organization like this. We also recognize that encouraging wellness is part of our mission. So we support yoga and meditation sessions. We had a concert in the park this past spring, which was kind of coming out of the pandemic. And we host a ping pong tournament at the local swim club. And while we're there, we disseminate information to everybody. We always, wherever we can go, we have a table, we have giveaways, we have information, we talk to people. And that's really what we want to be doing, is educating the community. We have also made it our mission to get involved with Riverdale students. We began by having a football game, a basketball game, a lacrosse game, where the players, the cheerleaders, the fans wear clothing or accessories in our lime green color, our signature lime green color. And again, we're raising awareness. Now, both the high school and the middle school now have stigma-free clubs and are moving ahead with their own projects. At the high school, students and teachers are encouraged to post mental health stories every Friday. And in September, our stigma-free groups will be participating in the Riverdale Health and Wellness Fair. So in conclusion, if you are suffering from some form of mental illness, reach out to your family and friends. And if you know someone with a mental illness, reach out to them. And if you need direction, reach out to the stigma-free groups. Thank you so much.
I think you're trying to talk, but you're on mute.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Andrea, so much. Next we have, I'm sorry, Claudia O'Neill from the River Edge Municipal Alliance Against Substance Abuse.
Hi guys. First I just want to give out a big shout out to Morgan. Long time knowing her since she was in kindergarten. Sat on my couch plenty of times, and I taught her CCD for many years. So I have definitely a big connection with her, and I'm super proud of her for where she's come. Trish, I just want to extend my condolences, and what a beautiful story, as hard as it is to talk about. You provide a lot of comfort to many people, so I thank you for that. My name is Claudia O'Neill. I've lived in River Edge for about 23 years now. For about 25 years, I was a nurse at New York Presbyterian in a transplant unit. And during COVID, when most people lost their jobs, I took a different job. I took a different route. And now I work as a residential nurse for Vantage Health Services. And what I do is I monitor and maintain group homes for patients that are mentally ill. Excuse me. But I'm not here to talk about my day job. I'm here to talk about the River Edge Municipal Alliance. We are funded by JCATA. JCATA is the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. We receive our funding yearly. And with this funding, we try to teach and prevent, we teach prevention to our students in our town, some of the senior citizen groups, and anybody that wants some education. We also try to hit a little bit of the mental health aspect, and we do work with our Stigma-Free committee from time to time, and we support each other in that way. We are a volunteer organization. We are appointed by our mayor and council yearly. We're comprised of about 20 people in town from various groups. We have clergy on our committee. We have, of course, Sergeant Walker, our lead officers. A lot of our focus is with the schools, so we're very fortunate that both River Edge and Riverdale provide us with great teachers and faculty members, people, assistant counselors, people that really have the pulse of the kids. So they're on our committee. And we also have everyday mom and dads that are on the committee because they also see what's going on in our town and they want to make sure that the kids are provided for. And the senior citizens in town are provided for. We used to get about $10,000 in our grant funding, and this past year we had about $3,500. This year we're expected for our new grant cycle, which started July 1st, we're up to about $5,000. It's a bit of a struggle for us to promote and to do prevention programs with very little money, but we're very fortunate. We're a savvy group. Stephanie Hartman, who used to run this alliance, has a lot of great connections and she's always finding us things to do. And we also work with our lead officers, so we're fortunate with them. It's a great committee to be on. We always ask for more help. So if you are around and you want to join us, we meet monthly. Starting in September, we will be back face to face, but for now we've just been virtual. And that's about all I have to say. I congratulate everybody tonight for talking, and I believe Mike Walker, you're up next, right?
He is. Thank you.
Okay, great. First to Morgan and Trish, you know, to come out and speak like you do is just such a value to so many people. You know, I could talk about it, counselors could talk about it, but when it's somebody who's lived it, whether it's unfortunate or fortunate, you know, Morgan, you've done such a great job turning it around. And that's important for kids to hear and for parents to hear that can happen. And it's real. You know, you're going to get people's attention as soon as you start telling your story. And Trish, obviously you too, it's the, you know, the unfortunate bad ending. But it's when you tell your story, it's real. And, you know, for River Edge, you know, if I speak about River Edge as the police chief, and I, you know, figured out where I'm going to go tonight and speaking, I think I just look back at my history. I've been a police officer for 32 years. As Nikki said, we've grown up. I won't say when we graduated, Nikki, but it was a while ago. And we went to Riverdale. And, you know, there were issues at Riverdale back then, and I'm sure there will always be issues at Riverdale. These streets in these towns are no strangers. These houses are no strangers to everything we're talking about. You know, the addictions, the mental illnesses, the stressors, so many of these things that we've talked about, they don't pick on any particular socioeconomic group. They really don't. You know, maybe some places get targeted a little more than others, but I've seen professionals who are, you know, functioning addicts, and they get up and go to work in the city every day, and they make a ton of money and their houses look great. And we deal with them when they're on their bad side, whether it's because they've gone too far and they need aid, or they're in a domestic. And unfortunately, you know, we've seen the suicides and the overdoses. And earlier today, we had somebody overdose in town, take pills was helping them with their anxiety, and unfortunately they decided to take too many. They're okay at this point, but it's something that exists. It's out there. We're aware of it. As a police department, we try to keep as many resources as we can. There are so many resources out there. Sometimes it's tough just to keep track of them all, and remember that we can go here, we can go there. And we're looked at it different ways, because we're generally there when it's a bad time. We are arresting you sometimes, or we're reviving you sometimes, and that's what Sergeant Abate is going to talk about. I asked him if he could come back in tonight to talk about the Narcan program, because he oversees that. And we use our resources. Sometimes an arrest is what is needed, because it forces even juveniles or young adults or adults to appear in front of a judge, and they have an ultimatum. You know, you have to stay clean, or you're going to go to jail. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. we'll try anything we can. I like to think that our department, Oradell, surrounding towns are departments that do care. A lot of us live in town or grew up in town, or just officers that are, they want to make a difference with the community. For mental illness, I've gone to the CIT training. I have intentions to push as many of my officers through that training as I can. My daughter, who's actually in mental health, she, asked me if I would go with her for a week, and it was a pretty neat experience for the two of us, especially for law enforcement to see that side of it, and for that side, the mental health professionals to see our side of it. So it's a great course that was put together. It's a week long. It's a little tough to get a lot of people through it, but we intend to do that. Mental illness is an area that we can never stop getting experience with and knowing how to deal with it as law enforcement officers. We're often there when it's the worst of times, and we have to protect the public. We have to protect individuals, and with that, if we are trained the best that we can be, sometimes it's just standing back, right? Letting somebody just vent and letting somebody be in the middle of the street. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's hands-on, and sometimes it's difficult for us to make those split-second decisions. But I think we get better at it. I think over the last few years, we've even, things have changed just in general in society as this meeting here tonight is a representative of it. So we're here and we learn every day, and we want to help any way we can. And again, I want to thank everybody that spoke tonight and for inviting us, really. Thank you for inviting us to this. With that, I'm going to let Sergeant Abate talk a little bit about Narcan and whatever else he'd like to add. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. So thank you to everybody that spoke. Again, I'll echo the Chief's words. The more that people speak about it, the more people become more comfortable with it. So the inception of our Narcan program started in 2016. All our officers are trained in the administration of Narcan. I am the officer, I'm the trainer. And matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, we had another save. Oddly enough, 2020, we had none, as in no administration of Narcan. We didn't have any reports to the police department for overdose. But since its inception, we've had approximately 17 cases with the use of Narcan. Some residents, some not. Average age ranges about 25 years old. As the chief said, it covers everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're rich, poor, educated, non-educated. It affects everybody. I remember a commercial several years ago. Was a commercial of a drug dealer standing by the phone, telling parents not to worry about him dealing drugs, but to worry about what's in the cabinet in their house, in their bathroom, because that seems to be the new gateway drug for kids that lead to this to the usage. Several years ago, I saved one of my DARE students, 24 years old, 2 days before Thanksgiving. And I didn't realize it was him until I got to his house. And he was clean for 3 months. And he got back with the wrong group. And there he was knocking on death's door. And we were able to deploy the Narcan and saved his life. As a matter of fact, to this day, it's been 4 years. His father sees me and he just breaks down crying every time he sees me. So we take it seriously. All the police officers in Bergen County are trained. They have them on board in their police cars. As I said, 2020, oddly enough, there were no events. And this year so far, we're at one. And 2019, I know we had 3. I was just looking and I saw New Milford, it's a surrounding town, had 11 in 2019. So it's definitely a problem. And we continue to train and stay on top of it. as well as mental illness. As the chief said, he's going to attempt to get all the officers trained in recognizing and being able to better de-escalate issues with and recognizing early onset issues with mental illness. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. So I mean, our program is it comes in spurts. We go months without anything, and then all of a sudden we get 2, 3, 4 in a month. So again, to the group, thanks for having this. If you don't talk about it, then nobody knows about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I want to just thank our law enforcement so much. It is so important as first responders that we hear from you. You are on the front line, and we can't thank you enough for all the work you do. And we, as Alumni in Recovery, which we create these events online, we're trying to create one for around Overdose Awareness Day with law enforcement like you from all over Bergen County to just have a few minutes to each share a little something, and maybe people will come on, because we need to honor our law enforcement for the work you do. It's just, and hear from you, because I can't imagine how it's affected you all this time. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand it back to Julia, and she's going to take it from here. Again, I want to thank the River Edge Library so much, and all of you wonderful resources. I am so pleased that Alumni in Recovery continues to grow with more people that want to get involved and be part of it. And because this is a local movement, and that's the only way we're going to change things. So thank you very much. I am unfortunately going to have to leave a minute early, so I'm going to say goodbye and hand it over to Julia. Thank you again.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your stories and telling us about all the amazing work you do. I think it makes me so excited that I live in this town, I get to work in this town, and just really want to thank everybody. I just thought we would take a little bit of time in case anyone had any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or feel free to send it over via chat. I'm happy to read it out loud. We're right at around an hour, so I think we're doing amazing with time. If anyone has any questions, please feel free. It looks like we've got a lot of great comments on chat. I just see another comment from Matthew. Grateful to be part of a caring community. Caitlin asked, what is the name of the place in Westwood?
The name of the place in Westwood, it just went out of my head. It's the acronym is EISS. I can get you it's the Wellness Center, the Support and Wellness Center in Westwood. And it's through CBH Care.
Thank you, Nikki.
Can I just add something on to that? I'm sure many of you know, because I'm sure Andrea knows this as well, but mental health first aid, there are different modules, different classes. There's a mental health first aid for adults, for lay people. It teaches us, in Oradell, everybody on the Stigma-Free is trained in it, including our police officers. And it teaches you how to recognize a mental illness, a mental health challenge, a drug overdose, drug abuse. And there's one for people who work with youth. And actually, I'm so excited that Teen Mental Health First Aid is coming to Riverdale next year. And it covers everything from substance abuse to all different kinds of mental health challenges. Again, if anybody's interested in any of those trainings, please, my number's in the chat.
Thank you, Nikki. Any other questions that we can answer before we sign off? Oh, Glenn, go ahead. I see a hand raised.
My name is Glenn. I'm an alcoholic. I just want to say I'm grateful for all you guys. I'm grateful for Nancy. Nancy, back a little while. I really appreciate what the chief had to say. And this is a big struggle. I came into this, been in and out of recovery for years. I had some trauma in my life. And I'm finally sober. It took me a while to get there. Nancy knows that. Nancy, do you mind saying how I met you? All right, I see the go ahead. So ironically, I'm from here in North Jersey. I'm a former firefighter EMT. I'm not posting but bubbles for that. Nancy saw me down in South Carolina with a fire department shirt on in a meeting. And she's like, how do you have that shirt? And I told her where I was from. And I told her I've done fundraisers for Alumni in Recovery. And I've been fighting this battle of alcohol addiction and addiction in general, because it's all addiction, no matter which way you look at it, for years. And I kept finding my way out the door somehow, conniving. It took me to a bottom where the curb looked like a skyscraper. I appreciate all the speakers in here. I know Nancy got it young. I know the first speaker got it young.
What do you need, Mom?
What was that?
Can they give you Vaseline for your face?
You talking to me? No. Okay. I like to see that. I've been on the first lines. I've had to Narcan people when they finally give an EMTs Narcan. I've had to do a lot of things. And I could never get it for myself. I'm finally working on myself. It took for me, just for anybody out there that doesn't understand this, it took for me to finally turn around and stop having other people push me into a rehab and push me to go away. It took for me to say, you know what, enough is enough. I have to do this. Today is the day I have to go away. My finances, my bills, everything else, they don't matter anymore because I'm going to lose it all anyway. But that's not always the case. And I skipped my meeting tonight because somebody else is in here that needed to hear some words and is trying to learn, friend of mine. And I really appreciate what everybody had to say. And that's really what I want to get down to. And thank you for everything. I learned a lot. This isn't my usual AA meeting, but I learned a lot just from listening here. And hopefully I'll see some of you guys around the Black Poster Project and, you know, some other recovery things that Nancy does. And God bless everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Glenn, for sharing. We really appreciate that. Stephanie says, Glenn, thank you for sharing. Big applause for your recovery. Same goes for me. Big applause for your recovery as well. If anyone else have any questions? Any raised hands? I'm just going to check one more time. Okay, I don't see any questions. So I think we're going to end it tonight. Thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you so much to those that joined us today. We really appreciate everyone taking the time out to spend your evening with us. Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you.
Care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night, guys. Good luck.